Hello, thank you for joining us today. This presentation is going to go over one of the newest and coolest features in Software Security Center called Audit Assistant. My name is Michael Wright.
And I'm Emil Kiner.
And we're just going to jump right in. So when an organization typically wants to start a software security program and they're looking to scan their source code with a static code analysis tool, they generally build a process that looks something like this. And so with a single application, we'll scan it with a static code analysis product. There'll be some results that need an auditor to review. And after the auditor has reviewed and validated those results, they'll then be passed on to a developer for remediation. So this process works really great with one or a very small number of applications. But in the enterprise, this often grows and grows and grows. And what we tend to find is that with a large number of applications going through a frequent software security scanning cycle, the security auditors spend most of their time focused on cleaning up the results and validating the results rather than doing other higher value security tasks that are required by the organization.
Because our research has indicated that this process of identifying and auditing static scan results has been the most time-consuming, we've decided to go ahead and solve that problem for our customers. What we've introduced is the Audit Assistant feature, which is actually tied into our machine learning-based solution called Fortify Scan Analytics. We are able to take net new scan results and predict with a high degree of accuracy whether or not the issue is exploitable, not an issue, or we're unsure and it's indeterminate. This new technology integrates seamlessly with customers' existing audit processes. Predictions from Audit Assistant are inserted as custom tags into static scan results. These static results can then be viewed in any tool, including Audit Workbench and Software Security Center. Here, we see the security auditor's view in Audit Workbench with the Audit Assistant predictions listed right by the analysis field. The auditor is then able to decide whether or not to accept the prediction and enter that as their analysis, or choose to overrule that prediction and perform a different analysis.
So when you take all of this information in and think about it holistically, you might ask yourself, well, how does this really apply to me? I'm unique, I'm different. My issues are mine, and they're very different than any other organizations. And one of the things we want to talk about when people consider the differences between groups of, or differences between organizations is this group of issues that we consider not an issue. And so lots of different things can be called not an issue. The most common one of those is the notion of a false positive. And so often we hear, oh, we have a lot of false positives. But once you dig into those false positives, generally speaking, with the Fortify product, you'll find that the issue can generally be classified into one of these other buckets as well. And so the issue may not be exploitable, and that could be because of a security control that is outside of the scope of the source code that we've assessed, or perhaps the vulnerability that we flagged is in dead code. At Fortify have taken the position that vulnerabilities found in dead code should be flagged because the dead code may become live soon, or other changes in the application may affect the data flow in such a way in the future that vulnerability does come out. Additionally, things that are not an issue could be noise, right? Policy concerns, the organization, this business has decided for one reason or another that vulnerability category is just not important or pertinent to them. And then lastly, true false positives, those issues that we've identified as being truly an issue that are not. And so throughout here, you can see that there are a lot of different ways to really classify what is and what isn't an issue. And thankfully, Audit Assistant is allowing you to take these things into consideration.
As you can see, the critical components of a successful security audit are a knowledge of both the organizational preference and application context of the application being audited, as well as a good amount of security expertise to find the real vulnerabilities. What we've done is derived a set of anonymous issue metrics by calculating them from the underlying scan results and even going back to the underlying source to calculate measures of code complexity, such as line count, nesting depth, and number of branches. These anonymous issue metrics are derived from the scan results and are sent up to the Fortify Scan Analytics servers, both to be stored for training data and in the case of an actual prediction to be used by the classifier for a prediction. There are two different ways that Fortify Scan Analytics learns from your audits. First, you're able to train up a baseline using your own historical scan results. That is, scan results that have already received a human audit. They can be parsed into anonymous issue metrics and submitted as training data. That training data is then used to build a classifier where predictions are then made. The next way we learn is by using corrections to our predictions. So as a prediction is presented to the auditor, if the auditor disagrees and calls an issue something other than what we've predicted, we will capture that issue metric as well and send that up as a correction to make sure that we don't make that mistake again in the future.
So at this point, you might be asking yourself what this really means. And what we're finding is that in the non-issue category, those are the issues that I was discussing a few slides ago, we're able to reduce the number of issues that fall into those categories by between 25 and 90%. Obviously, this depends on the organization's own definitions for those various categories. In addition, we're able to do this with up to a 98% accuracy rating. And that's done by organizations submitting previously done audits to the system in order to allow the classifiers and the training algorithms to learn from those previous audits. And then we'll be able to predict with the same level of confidence that your auditors have been able to do historically. All of this is able to be done with a less than 1% false negative rate. And so what we've really been able to accomplish here is a huge paradigm shift in the process of software security. And we've targeted that largest portion of non-value added time in order to enable our customers to get to the remediation phase as fast as possible.
There are several benefits that the Fortify Scan Analytics and Audit Assistant technology allow you to recognize today. Because we're predicting whether or not an issue is exploitable, we're reducing the number of issues that need manual examination. This will greatly speed up your security audit process. Additionally, we're helping you identify issues earlier in the SDLC. This means fixing and remediating those issues is going to be a lot cheaper. We all know how difficult it is to find and keep talented security auditors. Fortify Scan Analytics and Audit Assistant allow you to scale your existing AppSec program without having to hire more auditors to process more applications. And finally, as you start increasing the number of applications your organization is scanning, Audit Assistant is going to maintain the consistency in the auditing and reporting, as different auditors are able to scan different versions of the same application and produce similar audits. With Fortify Scan Analytics, our vision is to drastically increase the speed of security testing as organizations speed up releases as well as develop more and more applications. By applying machine learning solutions at every stage of your security testing processes, you can scale your AppSec program across all of the applications in your enterprise, as well as third-party and legacy applications. This will allow you to provide enterprise-wide software security assurance with Fortify to support you.
So we've pre-recorded this video to show you a demonstration of what the Audit Assistant workflow looks like. And what we've done is log into Software Security Center and moving to the configuration section for Audit Assistant. Once we're here, the first thing we're going to notice is that we need an authentication token to continue.
Here we're logging into Fortify Scan Analytics to get that authentication token. First thing that needs to happen is the tenant needs to be configured with a classifier that performs all the predictions and trains on your historical data as well as the Fortify intelligence. We've created the classifier and now we're creating the prediction policy, which maps all prediction requests to a specific classifier. We're selecting the classifier here on the right to make sure that all prediction requests will go to a single classifier, but you would be able to add additional classifiers here depending on language and auditor preference. Finally, we're navigating to the token section to actually create the token. Once we've named the token, we're going to see the token pop up, at which point this can be copied and copy and pasted into your Software Security Center configuration.
So we're going to split back over to SSC and paste in our authentication token. Following down the page, we'll enter in the prediction policy name that we just created. And most customers won't have to do this, but for the purpose of the demo, we'll need to enter in the URL to go back to the Scan Analytics API. This will be configured by default for all of our users. So after clicking the test connection button, we can see that the connection is ready, and now immediately the audit assistant functionality is available in all of the application versions in SSC. And here you can see we just went ahead and clicked that audit assistant button. So once that button is selected, SSC will go through all of the issue data for that application version and create anonymous issue metrics from that data. We then send those issue metrics, the anonymized data, over to the Scan Analytics platform for predictions. The Scan Analytics platform will then predict on that anonymized data, and remember that data is not your actual issue data. It's things like function count and cytomatic complexity and other metadata about the actual source code. The predictions come back from the Scan Analytics server, and then those predictions are shown in line with your other tags for a single issue inside of Software Security Center. And so it looks like we had a little problem with our demo video here, so I'll just keep describing the workflow. So an auditor would look at an issue and they would see their primary tag and any other custom tags below it. In addition, they'll have these new audit assistant tags available. One tag will be prediction and another one will be confidence. And so for example, you may see a set of values back from audit assistant that says something like exploitable with a 98% confidence rating. Now, customers can choose to accept the prediction by modifying the custom tag, the primary tag. And if they disagree with it, they can choose the value for their primary tag that they think would be correct. And the next time Audit Assistant is selected, we'll recognize that there was a disagreement between the auditor and our prediction result, and that information will be sent back to the Scan Analytics server so that the machine learning technology will continue to improve and get better across its predictions over time. So future versions of this integration with our Scan Analytics server are going to allow our customers to do more automated auditing and allow them to set thresholds like for SQL injection with a value of exploitable and a confidence over 90, automatically change my primary tag, and they could have a completely different criteria for another vulnerability class or for a completely different application. So Audit Assistant is really a huge value add to the software security lifecycle that any organization needs to perform. We've really targeted removing that large section of non-value added time and increasing the speed at which our developers can remediate vulnerabilities.
Yeah, to address to some of our viewers, the video unfortunately cut out, so we are going to be handling Q&A without the additional video. So please feel free to start asking your questions.
Okay, so we've just been informed that our audio delay is a little bit behind the audience, so we're just pausing for questions for a moment. So you might hear just a moment of silence.
So while we wait for Q&A to come in, let's recap what we've gone over. We've shown that we've just developed the Fortify Scan Analytics technology and hooked it up to the Audit Assistant feature in Software Security Center. Scan Analytics itself has been running independently with Fortify on Demand for the past year. And we've seen remarkable accuracy results and seen remarkable efficiency gains from our own Fortify on Demand auditors in their ability to audit a lot more applications without increasing headcount. So now we've got a couple questions coming in. First question is, when will SCA 16.2 be released?
So SCA 16.2 will be released this year, 2016. Our target is December of 2016, but it is likely that it might be available later in November.
Next question. Is this an optional thing for Fortify on-premise customers, or does this also use FOD? So this is actually included with your on-premise Software Security Center license, and you'll need to reach out to Mike or myself for an account on Fortify Scan Analytics, but this does not use Fortify On Demand.
Yeah, and so to be clear, this is a new feature of Software Security Center that's included for all of our customers with no additional cost. We're really trying to provide tremendous value to our customers by reducing that time it takes to audit. So
when will Audit Assistant be available for on-prem Software Security Center?
So it'll be available in our upcoming release, which is 16.2, and that will be released this year.
Some other common questions that we received have to do with the security of the data and the nature of it. As Mike said earlier in the presentation, all the data captured is what we call anonymous issue metrics. This is all metadata derived from your scan results. So scan results will never leave your software security instance. Instead, the metadata such as source code complexity and other attributes around the issue, such as the issue category, will get sent to Fortify Scan Analytics both for training and then for prediction. The results that are returned back from Fortify Scan Analytics are a prediction on whether an issue is exploitable, not an issue, or indeterminate. And those results then get inserted back into your scan results, normally the FPR file. That FPR file can then be consumed in any of the tools that you're used to using, Software Security Center or Audit Workbench, for example, and you'll be able to see all the predictions there.
That's a really good point, Emil. So what that means is that in your cohesive ecosystem that's using Fortify, your auditors that are connecting to SSC through collaborative audits, maybe through Audit Workbench or any of the IDE plugins, they'll be able to actually see the Audit Assistant predictions in those other tools as well when they're auditing. So this really enables all of the different personas that you have in your organization that are required to audit issues or remediate issues to be able to interface with the Audit Assistant predictions without any additional software, without any additional real changes to your process or workflow.
Another question from the audience is, can we hide source code when uploading our FPR to Scan Analytics? So this is a very important distinction. The FPR is never uploaded to Scan Analytics. The FPR is parsed locally wherever SSC lives. And only the metadata derived from it, which does not include source code, is ever sent up to Scan Analytics for prediction.
Right, and that's because the source code was used during the actual analysis. So the static code analyzer assessed your source code and determined whether it was able to find what it considered vulnerabilities or not. This is basically a second pass at that data, and the Scan Analytics server is using metadata derived from your source code, not the source code itself, to further validate the findings that came out of the previous analyzers. So at no time will your source code be sent off-premise from SSC. At no time will it be sent up to the Scan Analytics server.
We import FPRs into Fortify On Demand to share with our customers. If we use Audit Assistant, will FOD recognize this? That's a good question.
So what I think you're asking is, you have FPRs locally in SSC, and you want to use Audit Assistant, and so then you're going to apply some audits. You later import those FPRs to FOD, and you want to make sure that those audits exist in FOD. So if you remember what we said earlier is that the Audit Assistant, this first version, it's going to provide those predictions, those recommendations. It still requires a human auditor to change that primary tag. So when you upload this FPR to FOD, the selection that you've made on the primary tag will still be set just like it would have been before. And the Audit Assistant values aren't going to come into play in this workflow. In a future version, when it's automatically making those audits for you, once you've set the thresholds that you'll accept and you want it to automatically change that primary tag, it's still fine for uploading to FOD because, again, all of the actual determination for that issue being an issue or not being an issue comes from the primary tag itself. So you shouldn't have a problem continuing the same workflow that you just described to us.
So another question that we frequently get is, do I need to train using my own local data to be able to predict on scan results? And the answer is no. The training data set is seeded with the training data from Fortify On Demand, which is previously metadata derived from audited historical scans, as well as HP's global cybersecurity scan results. This means that right off the bat, once you upgrade to SSC 16.2, you can log into Scan Analytics and opt into using the Fortify shared community intelligence. Once you do that, you'd be able to submit, create a classifier on that and submit prediction requests from SSC and still receive accurate predictions. However, the algorithm does get increasingly accurate when you submit your own local training data. So over time, if you do have historical scan results, or if you continue to do the manual auditing and upload the training data, which is the derived anonymous issue metrics, you'll notice that the predictions get increasingly more accurate.
So we have two similar questions. One is, once 16.2 is released, how do we get started with this? And so essentially, you'll go to the administration screen, like we showed in the earlier part of the video, and you'll click the link that says, how do I get a token? That will then drive you to the Scan Analytics website. There will be a form there in the future to be able to request an account. And then Emil, myself, or someone else from Fortify will get back to you with an account for the Scan Analytics site. From there, it's a matter of just following the steps that we went through in the video. You'll create a classifier. It can be very, very simple, or it can be very complex, depending on how deep you want to get into it. You generate the token with that one click, and then you just provide the token and the policy that you created into SSC, and you're good to go. It's actually a very, very easy process. And once you have 16.2 in your hands, if you have any trouble, just reach out to support, reach out to product management. Any of us will be willing to help you. And then the other part is, will 16.2 be made available as a beta or any way early for customers to test? And so essentially the SSC 16.2 and the tools are done. We're really just waiting on wrapping up the static code analyzer in order to make this release. And so that's why I said it might actually happen in November, because things are looking good. If you really want to get early access, you can reach out to us, but because of the holiday season and it being this so far in the release, it's probably not a good timing to be able to make that happen. Another good question is training done on a per application basis, or is it per SSC instance? And so currently training is done on a per application basis. What you'll do is in SSC, you'll go into the application. There's a button that says profile. You'll click on that, and you'll see a tab that says audit assistant settings. When you click on that tab, there'll be a button that then will allow you to send that application in for training. And so you're free to do that across any of your applications to set your training data. When you click the audit assistant button and it goes through to parse for the issues, it'll also send training at that time as well.
And one caveat there, while the training is done on a per application or even per scan result basis, it's not necessary, in that what the algorithm learns from is your organizational preferences. So we can accurately make predictions on scan results from application B if we've received training on application A. Right? It's not limited to only predicting on things that we've trained on in the past.
And if you don't send any training at all, again, we're going to use our community-based data. And so without actually even needing to send training data or having a lot of security expertise in-house, you'd be able to just immediately start using Audit Assistant and benefit from the Fortify community. All right, those were a lot of really good questions. We're just going to hang tight and see if any more come in. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. I apologize about the technical difficulties we had with the video demo. If anyone would like additional information or has questions or needs a better demo, please feel free to reach out to us at Fortify. My email address is very easy. It's right@hpe.com. It's just my last name that's on the slide here. And you can reach out to Emil Kiner at emil.kiner, K-I-N-E-R, @hpe.com.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.